Everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a 2017 wrap-up, plus combine it with my most anticipated releases of 2018. Mostly because I want to do some 2017 stats. I like stats. I don't know about you, but I like to know my reading stats and to figure out kind of how things went for me. So I've got my laptop. If I end up looking down a lot, that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to ignore you. Let's start with my Goodreads stats. My goal I set pretty low. I set it at 12 because I was not in the mood to read in 2017 at all until Robin Hobb hit my life. I ended up actually not reading a single book during January and February. Complete bombs, zeros, goose eggs. So I didn't read anything for the first 2 months of 2017, and things eventually did pick up because I did finish 19 books this year for a total of 9,259 pages. So if we divide that out, that comes about to 25 pages a day. My shortest book of the year ended up being Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. This came in at 222 pages. And my longest book of the year was Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, which is the last review that I ended up posting. So if you haven't seen this, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, and I have a spoiler-free review as well. This came in at 809 pages. Now, before you harp on me about it being a mass-market paperback, if you were to look at the HarperCollins publication, that comes in at 896 pages. So they're gigantic books, no matter what format you end up reading them. So this was my biggest one, 809 pages. My most popular book of the year on Goodreads is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. No surprise because of the Hulu adaptation that came out. 1,285,524 people also read The Handmaid's Tale in 2017. That is an insanely large number of people, but it's definitely because of the Hulu adaptation. I'm also not surprised about this book being the least popular book that people have read on Goodreads this year. 896 people read The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter by Michael J. Sullivan. This was released in December of 2017, and it was an early release on a Kickstarter campaign. So the book will be published, available in bookstores and on Amazon in June. But if you want to purchase it directly from the author before June and get an early read on it, then you can purchase it now directly from the author. So I participated in a Kickstarter campaign and I rated this book 4 stars. My highest rated book of the year, I managed to squeeze this one in. I finished this one on December 31st of 2017 before the clock struck midnight. It was like midday when I finished it. My highest rated book on Goodreads this year was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This book has a 4.51 average rating on Goodreads. That's an insanely high average on Goodreads. Most books I don't see like above a 4.5. I do see like above 4s and stuff, but this one, 4.51 on Goodreads. My average rating for 2017 ended up being a 3.7. So it was, for the most part, a good year at the end, but the very beginning was pretty mediocre for myself. So I ended up doing my own spreadsheet and my own reading stats. I love stats. And I'm gonna throw up a few of the stats on the screen for you so that way you can see. As far as splitting it up between the age range, I'm gonna move over a little to the side so I can put the graph up. Between adult, young adult, and middle grade, I read 12 adult books, 6 young adult, and 1 middle grade. So you get to see the percentages. The adult was 63%, which I think is pretty good. Young adult 32%, and middle grade was 5%. As far as the genres I read 13 books in fantasy. No surprise. I read 1 thriller, 2 sci-fi, 2 contemporary, and 1 nonfiction. So again, you can see the bulk of my time is spent reading fantasy at 68% of the books that I read. Page length is always an interesting stat for me to look at. Okay, I read 1 book that was between 200 and 299 pages. I read 4 books that were between 300 and 399 pages. I read 5 books that were between 400 and 499 pages. I read 3 books that were between 500 and 599, 3 books between 600 and 699, 1 book that was between 700 and 799, and then 1 book that was between 800 and 899, and then I also listened to 1 audiobook. As far as the publication year, I didn't expect for me to read as many newer books as I ended up reading. That doesn't typically happen for me. The oldest book that I read was The Handmaid's Tale, and that was published in 1985. And then I ended up reading 4 books that were published in 2017. That's crazy to me. Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, Age of Swords, The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter, and Artemis. So those were all 2017 releases, but you can see there were a lot that were spread out, a lot in the most recent decade. Between 2011 and 2016, I read 8 books, and then I read 4 more books that were published this year alone. That's a crazy stat to me. And then as far as the genders of the authors that I ended up reading, it was pretty evenly split. I read 5 books that were by male authors, 7 books that were by female authors, and then 1 book that was written by both, because it was a joint book. It was Illuminae, written by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Those kinds of stats are interesting to me. I might, maybe I'll start incorporating that into my monthly wrap-ups. I don't know. Let me know what you think if you're a stats person like myself, or if you don't care. But definitely it's cool to look at the end of the year and just kind of see how things spread out and see how things finished out. Looking ahead at 2018, I've already posted my 2018 reading goal. Let me get back centered in the frame. I already posted my 2018 reading goals video, but I have not yet talked about some of the anticipated releases I have for 2018. For me, actually, a lot of my anticipated releases are going to come at the end of the year. So hopefully they will still come at the end of the year and not get pushed off into 2019. So the first book that I am excited for is The Children of Blood and Bone. It releases on March 6th, 2018. I don't know that much about it, but it's getting a lot of buzz, and I hate like falling for buzz books. But this one just looks like a book that I'll be interested in. It's a young adult fantasy. I think it's going to be a big release. So there's The Children of Blood and Bone. The next book that I'm excited for is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. It releases on March 13th, 2018, and that is the 3rd book in the Illuminae files. A ton of people have been talking about Obsidio. I actually haven't read Gemini yet, and that was a book that I failed to get to in 2017, but I still plan to read it before the release of Obsidio, and I'm very excited for that. I don't know if I'll purchase that right when it comes out. The next book that I am excited for is Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan. So this is book number 3 in his Legends of the First Empire series. Let me know if you want me to do like a Michael J. Sullivan video. I have almost every single one of his books that are out. I definitely have all of his fantasy books that he has released. So Age of War is book 3 in the Legends of the First Empire series. This is a like prequel series to the Rhaeria Revelations. These books take place 1,000 years before any of the events in the Rhaeria Revelations. So we get to see how things started off before we arrive at Rhaeria, where there are prejudices and there's magic, and we get to see how things started off. Let's see, Age of War is coming out on April 17th, 2018. Okay, and then we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Amazing. I'm so excited. This comes out July 10th, 2018. Naomi Novik tweeted out this article that was written up on the release of Spinning Silver. For those of you who are fans of Uprooted, it's not necessarily a sequel to Uprooted. Potentially it's a companion novel, but I think they're both 2 stories that are meant to be standalones. This one takes influence and inspiration from Rumpelstiltskin. She did actually tweet out the link to the very first chapter of this book. So you can actually go and read the whole first chapter of Spinning Silver right now before the July 10th release, if you're as big of a fan of Naomi Novik as I have become. The next book, I haven't even read The Tiger's Daughter yet. But I'm so pumped for Phoenix Empress to be released on August 28th, 2018. And that is the 2nd book written by Kay Arsenault Rivera. The first book, The Tiger's Daughter, I've mentioned it a couple times in the fantasy books that I want to read this year. So I've got 8 months until the release of Phoenix Empress to be able to get my hands into that world that Kay Arsenault Rivera has written. It's a fantasy Mongolian setting that it sounds to me like it's extremely matriarchal. The 2 main characters are 2 warrior women who are trying to follow in the footsteps of their mothers, I believe. But like I said, I haven't read it yet. But the synopsis of the first one sounds so good, and the reviews of the first one sound so good that I cannot wait for Phoenix Empress, and that comes out in August. And then the final book that I am so hyped for, this is a fall to be announced date. Like, it doesn't even have a release date. They're thinking it's going to come out in the fall of 2018. It's going to be called Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. The way that he described it, he said that Marlon James, like, set out to write his own version of an African Game of Thrones, and I am ready for that. I cannot wait for the kind of magic that we could encounter, the kind of political intrigue that we could encounter. That sounds amazing to me. So that one's called Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. I'm going to be eagerly, like, ear to the grindstone, listening for any kind of news I can about that story, and I cannot wait for that one to come out whenever it ends up coming out. So this video was definitely a much more chatty video, but I just wanted to share some of those stats because I always find those kinds of things interesting, and then I cannot wait till we get to some of these 2018 releases. My 2018 TBR is extremely long, so I'm not entirely sure which of the new releases I'm actually going to get to in 2018. To be honest, the one that I know I will get to in 2018 is Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan. Please put in the comment section below any of your favorite 2018 releases that will be coming up. In case you're like, Cass, you definitely need to hear about this one, please let me know. Put it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, you can always follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at WhatCassRead, the same as this channel, so it's super easy to find. Or you can find me on Goodreads if you're not into other social media. And of course, you know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.